All right, so what we have here is pretty much everything laid out that you're going to need. And also you're going to need probably definitely like a spare paper towel. You can see we have a drop cloth, which is just something, could be anything, a piece of plastic, piece of cardboard, something that you don't care if the paint gets on it, you just throw it away. I'm using a chunk of paper towel, doubled over, so it's double thick. And then this one is just on the side so I can wipe my hands and my brush with it. One of the little cups that you should have gotten in your kit is empty, and a couple of them should be empty. One of them's for water, so you can dip your brush and clean it, or whatever you need if you need to thin it out. The other one is for the paint. And then if you have, or excuse me, another one that was empty would be for like mixing two colors together if you want to mix them. Okay. So you got your paint, a little bit of water. Of course, you need a rocket if you want to paint something. This is not very difficult. I mean, you just kind of have to go and start. So just start. I'm going to start like right here. Just start painting it. And here's what you want with paints. The best results are going to come from lighter coats. You don't want to cake it on super thick with the paint. Now, white is going to show through lighter colors like green. But guess what? After I'm done with this, I'm going to let it dry. And you know what I'm going to do after that? I'm going to paint right over the top of it with probably another coat of green. Is this taking too long? I don't think it is. So painting two coats. Now, do you have to do it that way? No, you could try to cake it on there, but you can see that white is showing through. So for this first coat, listen, it's not rocket science on how to paint. And I'm just spreading this. You know, but I can tell you this. When I'm a kid, I used to go, let's just get done with it. I don't want to paint it again. I don't want to wait for it to dry. But as I got older, I learned to really start just being patient. I highly recommend it for your big base coats, especially, or whatever coats that you're putting on. If you can see through it at all, don't try to just cake on more paint right away. Let it dry, and the next coat is going to start out as not white, but halfway green or mostly green. And so when you put another coat on top of it, it's going to be probably just fine. Let's see, I probably need to... And I would be real careful before you pick up too much paint on the brush all at once. You know, I'm going to probably just leave that and kind of paint up here a little bit. And you know, some of these little crevices in here, like with the launch lug, you know what? I'm going to have to go down to a smaller brush to fit in there. So I'll just grab this one here. And I can get down in these little crevices where that bigger brush just wasn't cutting it. Okay, so now we're back, and you guys can see on the video here, I've been painting it up, and again, there's stuff that shows through, but I don't feel like you're going to get rid of that with one coat usually with the acrylics. It doesn't seem to me. So it's a little wobbly because I'm holding it by one finger like 8 inches away. So if it's wobbly and shaky, there we go. And we're about to finish this thing up, at least for the first coat. All right, so the first coat kind of dried up. Everything's looking good. You can see though that there's definitely, especially on these fins, there's a lot of room. You don't need to put it on very thick. You can see as I grab the paint and go to take the paint out of this, I'm kind of wiping the brush on the side to get so it's not quite as thick. And this time I'm going to do the tip up here because last time I tried holding it from the other end when and starting there, it was not a good idea. You can see it was very wobbly when I was painting the nose cone. So I'm doing that first. Now let's go ahead and just start coating this. Yeah, with that primer, that base layer of paint, this is definitely starting to go on there much nicer and smoother. And remember, if you put too much or too thick where you can actually see it bubble or like, kind of bulging as a lump of paint, just spread it out. Just grab from it. See, like I put too much right in here, so I grab from it, spread it out on the fin. Too far. Okay. Now let's go over the pieces. Way too much built up on the. Yep. See, that's too thick. You can see that it's kind of building up. Spread that out. Make sure everything, including the edges of the fins, don't forget those. So, but so far, boy, I'm actually quite happy. All right, so we're back for the third coat. I got to tell you, so it's the morning now, and I'm looking at this after it's dried, that second coat. And you know what? Things are looking really well. Some of the fins, I'm still seeing a little bit of light of the white of the cardboard kind of coming through, or the cardstock coming through. So I think I'm going to do one more color, or one more coat of the green. Now, you don't have to. Some people do one. I like doing 2, 3. I'm going to do 3 of them here. And you can decide. Again, if you're happy with yours the way it is, it's no problem. Go with it. Me, I see this and I feel like there's a little bit of work I could do in the fins. And you know what? I feel like if I've spent this much time on my project, maybe it's worth just a little extra push to get it over the top and make it perfect. I mean, if you're going to paint something that you've spent a lot of time on, you might as well get it right. And we're going to go on really light with this coat. We'll start at the cockpit and kind of work our way around here so I can remember what I did. And I got to tell you, this paint is actually sticking a lot better than I thought to this 3D printed part. That's good. I just got to work my way around. I always forget to get the end of the nose cone, the tip, so I'm going to get that right now. Just a little bit on there. Last time I never really looked at it from that angle, and it had a little spot on there that was a little. Again, though, you can see really spreading things out here. That's lovely. I need to spread this out now. It's pretty thick. That's okay. Make it. All right, so there it is. It's all done for the third coat of paint. All right, so there you have it. Again, remember the techniques that we use. So just kind of review. Is you're seeing when I grab the paint, I'm just barely dipping it in. So you've got just a little bit of paint on the end there. Sometimes I'll even wipe a little bit of that off still and spread it around the brush. And it's really easy to pull out a nice light coat. If you do 2 or 3 light coats, you're going to get I feel like you're going to get probably really good results out of this paint. And again, I'm seeing information on the internet. You can just do a coat and then wait like an hour, maybe a half hour. Some people are saying if you put it on very light. If you put it on a little heavier, you're going to have to wait maybe an hour or 2 hours, somewhere in there. All right, everybody. Hey, best of luck. And remember, when you're done, to clean up your paints a little bit by kind of chipping away some of the paint, get rid of some of this paint that's accumulated around the rim. And you can kind of wipe some of that off just so it doesn't glue the lid on when it dries, if that paint were to harden. So. Now I've got the third coat is all dried up. Everything's looking pretty good. And what I want to do now is I want to paint this canopy. So the canopy is the part of a cockpit where the pilot would sit. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I'm trying to load in as many different techniques as I can into painting my rocket. This one's going to be a little bit more complicated, and I'm going to use color mixing to mix up a light blue. So we're going to use the blue and the white to mix up. First things first is I'm going to cut a piece of tape. You can see the edge where the tape's going to go down is definitely curved. Set this tape down here, 2 little pieces, about like this. I cut an arc here that will kind of, sort of-ish, kind of close enough model that curve that I have to cut to paint around. All right, so now what we have to be careful is we don't want this tape to lift our paint up. Now, because you can see, look at this old beat up table of mine. The tape will actually take the finish off. Look at that, it's lifting up the finish off of it. And that's okay, because you know what? What I'm gonna do is before I put the tape down on my rocket, I'm gonna get rid of the tack by touching it with my fingers. My fingers have oil on them and whatever, and it makes the tape less sticky. We don't want the tape to be too sticky, otherwise it will rip the paint, the green paint, right off of my rocket. So what I'll do then is I'm just gonna take this, hopefully I cut it right or good enough. I'm just gonna try to put it down right on that edge. This one's a little off. It probably won't be perfect, but I want to make sure that it lines up exactly with that crevice. And if I need to bend it, that's fine too. You can bend the tape a little bit. Okay, I'll probably good enough. We'll see how it turns out. Okay. Little at the ends, we could definitely use something right here. So. All right, now I don't know how this is going to work, but I want to mix up a light blue color. Canopies are typically made of glass, the part where the pilot sits. So I thought I would do like a light blue color to kind of simulate that. I don't need very much, just a little dab of that. And looks pretty cool when you spin it up, doesn't it? Gets a cool design in it. You spin it around, start mixing it. Okay, so I'm looking at that, and that's cool. I feel like I want a little lighter color, so I'm going to put a little more white in there. Okay, I'm ready to go. I got my brush kind of cleaned off after mixing it. You can see I went with a smaller brush. Remember, we want light coats, so wipe off most of the paint before you get to painting. I'm going to get over here so I can do this with my right hand. I'm right-handed, so that helps a little bit. And again, we want to brush just a light coat on there. Don't worry, you're going to see some of the green through there. That's okay. And you can see I have mixed up far too much paint by mistake. But that's why we put the empty cups in there, so you can mix your own colors. So let's say you don't like the purple, you know, you could add some red to it, or add some blue to it, depending on what you want to do. Ooh, that's a real thick. Got to make sure I spread that out quite a bit. Get rid of some of it. Spread it more thin. Got a gap in my tape right here. I can see it lifting up. I don't want that paint getting underneath there, so I'll put that down again. We're not going to worry if we see the green. That's fine. We're going to put more coats on this. Okay, there's coat number 1. I'm going to come back to this later. And then one thing to remember, in between coats of paint, make sure you put the lid on these, because I'm waiting, you know, I set a timer where I'm waiting 40 minutes. You can see I've kind of set that right here. And I'm waiting 40 minutes on this. So make sure that you're putting your lids on here, and also that you wash your brush and wash and get all the paint off your brush while you're waiting to put on the next coat. Otherwise your paint, and this paint's unique, like you mixed it, there's no way to get any other just exactly like it. So you're going to put it on top of there. You want to make sure that you preserve it. All right. It's been 40 minutes, a little longer, maybe 45. And we're ready to put on our second coat of paint. Nothing to see here, real exciting. I'm going to remix this a little bit in case it's, I don't know, moving around a bit. Get rid of most of the paint on the side here. Get rid of more of it. It's just one of it. This one, you can't lay on a bit there, but you know, I'm not using this. Now, if it has a 93 coat, so look how it's taking off. So just a small stuff to take off. You don't really have to be that careful. Just take it on the size of it. This is green there a little bit. That's not bad. Now you see, starting to I just do myself. I just start releasing that coat. I can tell too, I keep one more paint to find some pull back. Okay, there's my second coat. I'll be back for the third in another 45 minutes, maybe an hour. Painting this one. And I'm also going to need some green. Here's why. You got to be a little more careful. In that last one, I think I had some blue on my thumb when I grabbed it. So I got some on the side. This is no big deal. I can paint over the top of it with the green. I tried to kind of get it off there while it was still wet, but it didn't work too well. So you're going to see me do the blue coat, and you're going to see me touch up with put some green over the top of this. So I'm going to go blue on there, light. This one's coming all that less. We saw a little bit of green showing through some parts. We don't know if they're right there. And now we're going to put on a little bit of green to cover this up. And when you're covering up, you got to blend with the paint that's already there. So you want to kind of, especially towards the edges of your painting patch, you want to really blend that well. I may not need another one. I can't really see that. Maybe a little bit. So that's good. And I'm going to let this tack up a little bit. I don't want it to dry all the way. I'm going to remove the paint in a minute, but I want the paint to kind of get set. So I'll give it about 10 minutes. So let's just set. I didn't wait quite 10 minutes, but it's probably enough for it to get a little bit tacky on the paint. I'm going to go really gently and very slow. Two reasons. I don't want to rip the blue paint up and ruin the edge of it. And the other reason is I don't want to lift up and tear the green paint that's underneath there and tear it off when I take the tape off. So I'm just going to go really slow and gentle. Let's take these pieces off first, these extra pieces we put on at the end. And again, when I get to the part where there's the blue, I'm going to go real slow and just gently peel that edge off. And you know, we've spent so much time on this already, you might as well take the extra time so that we don't ruin everything at the last moment. All right, got that one off. So you can see we have a little bit of problems here. There is a little bit of paint. I didn't have the tape pushed down hard enough there. So some leaked underneath it, barely a little bit there. You can see a little bit here. This part, I didn't have the tape down far enough, so part of it that should be blue is still green. What we could do is to get it back to green, you just put some green over the top. So in your kit, you had some fine point brushes as well. We want the one that's the smallest and very stiff. We want it to be more like a pencil, not something that's easy to, yep, this one right here. That one will work just good. Should be good enough. Okay, now I'm going to really get rid of the extra green on this brush. I just want a little bit on the tip. Grab the paintbrush as close to the end as possible. Just touch that up a little bit. There you go. This one's a little bit off. And you know, you can see right here, we still see those blue marks that I made earlier. So I'm just going to put an extra little touch up on that. That's it. That might be too big of a patch, but it's okay. Just towards the edges, we want to really blend well, because that's where people are going to notice the difference if they see a difference. So we want to really blend the edges up well. All right, got that patch done, and we'll come back later and hopefully be applying some designs to it. So now I'd like to teach you guys how to put some stripes or some lines on there, and we're going to use a technique that we call masking. Now, like it sounds like a mask, and realize it goes over your face, and only certain parts you can see through, like the eyes and usually the mouth. Masking basically covers up the stuff we don't want painted, and it lets the paint go on to everything else. All right, so let's check that out. So I'm gonna use the masking tape today, and my stripes I wanted to be white. Yours might be whatever color you want. So I've got a little bit of white paint in here. Don't need very much. And for this one, I'm probably going to use this brush right here. It's kind of a wider brush. And we're going to use a lot of the techniques we learned earlier in the video where we use small, thin coats, several coats, let it dry, put another thin coat over the top until we can no longer see the green underneath. All right, so let's get going. The first step is we're going to need to mask and tape off the parts that we don't want. Now, what I want to do for my design is just for these two fins, I want to put white stripes on the edge of this fin, which means I need to cover up the inside of the fin. Now, if your tape is too wide, you might have to take scissors and trim down and just use one of the edges that are straight, okay? Mine's a little bit more narrow, all right? So we're going to take our tape, and I'm going to pull off a piece that's going to be longer than that. That's good. And for this, I'm going to need several of these pieces. And what I'm going to do, I'll just put them on one at a time. Listen, this tape is too sticky, and it could rip the paint off when you tear it off. So what we're going to do is we want to get rid of some. If you have blue tape paint, or tape that type, you can put that on right away. But this stuff, we need to make it less tacky. It's too sticky. So I'm just going to stick it, you can stick it to your hand. And oh wait, I don't want to fold it up too much. Okay, that's fine. And then it gets rid of it. Now it's not quite as sticky, so it won't rip the paint off. I don't want it to rip the green off because that could easily happen. This paint, so I want it less sticky, so I just like ruin the stickiness of the tape. Not completely, but a little bit. Now I'm gonna get a straight view. It's gonna be hard to see on the camera. And I want it to be even. There we go. So I put this side down and hold it, and then I can kind of play with this. See, like that's no good, but like when I get right here, that looks really good. I want this stripe to be even. Now, whatever you want, you can do. You can use your imagination, but this is not that difficult, right? So there's this one. I want to make it exactly the same as the other one. Okay, now the other ones are actually easy to get them exactly even because I'm going to do the flip side of these. This other side's really easy because you can match it up with the other tape that's already down. And now I'm going to do one more thing. Got to get them down tight. We don't want that paint, the white paint, to leak in there and ruin our green paint. Every leak will really show, especially with white paint. And remember, we're going to paint in light coats. It's going to look bad, this first thin coat. But remember, as we paint over it, we'll see less and less green. But right now, without a doubt, you're going to see green through the white. And I'm really going to thin coat, several thin coats. This is going to be probably 3 coats. Okay, so now I'm pretty much done with that first round. I'm going to put on the next coat of paint. All right, so we're all done with that second coat. Time for coat number 3 because the second coat on the stripes has dried. So get right after it. And that should do it. So there it is for the final coat of paint. We'll come back after the paint tacks up just a little bit in a few minutes and remove the tape. So what I found with the white is that I'm going to need one more coat, unfortunately. So we put that on there because the white is just not good at covering up the green. All right, so that's looking pretty good, and that's going to be it. I'm not doing it anymore. All right, so it's time to take our tape off now. And remember, when you do this, just go really slow. Looks like I had a little bit of paint leaking under the tape there. Not too bad, though. Just go nice and slow. I don't want to lift up any of the green, and I don't want to rip up the edge of the white. So nice and slow. There it is. Pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with this so far. Okay, so that'll do it for the project's paint. And in the next video that I'm going to put out, we're going to add some vinyl decals to the fins and to the side of the body tube. Hey, thanks for watching. And hey, look, if you see anything that I did that you feel is incorrect, just put it in a comment down below.